Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends normally spin a wheel once a week and it normally chooses the horror movie for them, but today we are actually doing something very special. We are talking about the film Massacre on Aisle 12, which was released in 2016. We actually have the writer and star of the film with us today. We have Mr. Chad Ridgely. We're going to be hearing all about his career in this film. So I'm your co-host, Alec.
I'm Justin, and thank you, Chad, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Happy to be here, guys.
Yeah, awesome. Alec, I thought we could do that like intro thing that we've been doing the past few episodes where you asked me like, how did you and Chad talk on Twitter? And then I like tell a funny story about it.
Oh yeah. So, Chad, I hear that you and Justin met on Twitter. How did
I mean, that's the official story. We met in a bathhouse off a Craigslist link, but yeah, Twitter. Twitter is
Yes. Yeah,
it.
that's the official story we're going with is Twitter.
Yeah, I think we all kind of got linked in together through. There was a conversation going around about another film that was similar to Massacre on Aisle 12. I haven't seen the other film, so I can't really say whether it is or not. But that's kind of how we met, and we were socially distanced at all times.
Yes. So we were reviewing Black Friday that came out late November ish with Bruce Campbell. And another podcast was like, hey, this movie is like a direct remake of Massacre on Aisle 12. And I was like, oh, I haven't heard of that. Like, let me check it out. And then some very large podcasts that had like 90,000 followers tagged you. And you were like, hey guys, like I'd love to help you watch Massacre on Aisle 12, and you have your Twitter bio is like your professional photo shot, like that you use.
headshot?
It's a headshot, yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, who is this? And I looked up the movie, and I was like, oh, this is the main actor and director from Massacre on Isle 12. I was like, there's no way like this actor is reaching out to us, and you did, and it here we are. It was awesome.
That's right. Yeah, I mailed you a couple of VHS copies. Uh,
No, you actually what you did do is you sent us a very nice Christmas present where you Venmoed us the rental fee, which again, thank you for that. I was
of
super
course.
Yeah,
appreciative.
thanks a lot.
And Alec came back from LA to Connecticut for Christmas, and we got together and watched it, and it was awesome.
Awesome. That's great. Watched it together. Amazing.
You know, it's kinda crazy. This is the first and only movie we've ever watched together for this podcast, Justin, now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh, that's sentimental. There you go.
Yeah, wow.
But Chad, your IMDb profile here is quite extensive. Stand-up comedian, actor, writer, producer, director. You founded Full Auto Films. You used to be a police officer and a celebrity bodyguard. So do you just want to give everyone like an intro to your life?
Sure. Yeah. So I was born in DC. I was growing up in the suburbs there. Went to University of Maryland, and my dream was always to like finish school. I guess maybe that's everyone's dream. Then move to Los Angeles and chase my real aspirations of being a writer, an actor, a comedian, all that good stuff. But I got a role on a show that was filming out in Baltimore, and I was supposed to play a police officer. And I never had any intention of ever being a police officer in my life. It wasn't even really in my mindset. But to develop the character, I decided that I would go on some ride alongs with the cops where they let you sit in the passenger seat of the police car and just spend the night riding around with them. So I went on two of those, and it was kind of in a high crime area. And totally by accident, I fell in love with the job. I was like, wow, this is actually very exciting. This is cool. I think I want to do this for a couple of years. So after I graduated from college, I started working as a police officer, and I worked in a very busy area, just in the southeast area of DC, the DC Maryland border there, which was super. We were the murder capital of America at the time, so it was a great place
Oh,
to
jeez.
play cops and robbers.
Mhm,
We had a surplus of robbers, which made it very easy to always be involved in something really high adrenaline, exciting.
mhm,
And every time I would get to the point where I was kind of ready to move on, I'd either get promoted or transferred to another division. They kept me interested in another part of law enforcement, like whether it was being a firearms instructor or a detective or sergeant or supervisor, stuff like that. So I really had a great time doing it. It's a phenomenal career, and my hat goes off to all the men and women who are still out there doing it. Today's a different culture than when I did it. But eventually I reached the point where I was ready to make the transition out to Los Angeles and chase my true aspirations. And I think police work helped with that because you certainly have to be good at talking to people kind of on the spot. And it kind of made auditions easier and meeting casting directors easier and stand up comedy easier. That's kind of how that got started. And what I found was when I first moved to Los Angeles was that a lot of celebrities, probably 90% of the celebrities out there, they hire police officers or former police officers for their security details
Hmm.
because they like people that have that kind of background. So I was able to do that, and in fact, my first celebrity bodyguard client was Michael Jackson, which was
Whoa.
amazing.
Oh my
That's
god.
awesome.
Yeah, it was truly remarkable working for him at that time. And like he wouldn't say like, "Hey, Chad, come over here." He would always be like, "Yoo-hoo, Chad," and, which was pretty amazing. So yeah, I worked for MJ for a while, and then I worked. There was some other clients in there as well, but then I ended up for 5 years, almost 5 years, working full time at the Playboy Mansion,
Oh, jeez.
which was
Wow.
also amazing,
Oh
like
my god.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, worked there from 2012 almost up. Well, I worked there till he passed away in 2017, and then I started working for filmmaker James Cameron, which was as a filmmaker also another wow type of thing, and then a bunch of other clients in there in between. So it's been an amazing story and amazing book one day probably.
Damn, that's yeah, that's really cool. That's so cool that even as like a kid you wanted to do these things, you found something else that like filled that passion, but then it was always there, like always in the back of your mind kind of wanting to go out and achieve those dreams and you are. So that's really cool.
Yep, step by step. So it's been an amazing journey that I'm exceptionally grateful for. It hasn't been easy, but it's certainly been filled with lots of really cool stuff.
Yeah. So did you like retire at like 20 years or something as a police officer?
You could have retired at 20 years. I left after 13 years. So
Nice. Yeah, my dad retired as a detective in New York City, and I
nice.
was in the military like 10 years ago, and I always thought like, man, it'd be so cool to be like a bodyguard for a celebrity, though I have no clue how one would even become that. And then here you are at the Playboy Mansion, so that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Again, like how we met, I found that job on Craigslist. So I would just say, just look there.
You know Eddie Money, the singer, right?
Of course, yeah, from Philly, I think.
Yeah, and he used to be a cop, and I always was wondering, was like, were people like, "Man, Eddie, you got a really good voice. You ever think about like being a singer?" Like, were people ever saying that to you, like, "Chad, you're pretty funny, man. You ever think about like going out to LA and trying this whole thing?"
No, never. They did say I had a nice voice, which I did agree with. So, like, talking on the radio, you just sexy it up, like Z422 copy en route. Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Would you mess around with like dispatch and stuff, doing funny voices or
You can't really play around with that, but
right,
Yeah, that
right.
makes sense. That makes sense.
yeah. Uh,
Like, seriously, man, this is real.
hey, can we get we had a shooting? No, but some of the dispatchers had really sexy voices too, which was bad because you'd picture something in your head and then you'd go down to communications, and many times they were not
Yeah,
what you had imagined. So I'm sure your dad can tell you some stories.
yeah, I hear what you're saying. So this was awesome. So we're here today to talk about Massacre on Aisle 12, your 2016 film, and you also sent me your newest trailer, Self Isolated, which we talked about before we were officially recording. That I was trying to watch it last night, but is not officially available yet. Do you want to? Is
Sure.
there either one that you want to talk about first, or?
Well, Self Isolated was the most recent project. It was a straight up thriller, a suspense thriller we shot in Los Angeles in 2020 over the pandemic.
Ooh,
And we had our world premiere in New York over at Buffalo Dreams Fantastic Film Festival, where it won Best Thriller out of 100 features that they screened. So that was really amazing. So it's
yeah.
been on the festival circuit for a little bit. And now we're at the point where we're negotiating with different distribution companies trying to find the best home for it. But Self Isolated is a pretty amazing thriller. It's about a woman who awakens from a coma to find her caretaker husband missing. under the backdrop of the global pandemic. So she awakens from a coma. She's by herself in her home. She's got all this medical equipment around her. She's not really sure what's wrong with her. She's not sure where her husband is. And in her search for answers, she comes across this unusual neighbor who may have something to hide. Spoiler alert, he has something to hide. So but yeah, it's a fun thriller, and it's based in the backdrop of the pandemic, and I think people will kind of respond to that. And I wanted to make a movie that was because in March of 2020, when all this the pandemic stuff started happening, everybody it was new to everybody, but we all had the advantage of seeing it unfold and being there for all the news updates and watching the virus spread and things like that. And I said to myself, imagine waking up into this after this, we're already here and having no clue as to how we got to this point. And so
Mm.
I wanted to make a film that kind of captured that uncertainty and that confusion and that whole disorientation process, and then also trying to navigate life through that without having any answers as to where your husband is or where your friends, your family are, all that stuff. And I think we captured that very well, and we've had some very positive feedback and reviews on it so far. So I'm excited to bring it to the world and see the response.
That's so awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like a zombie movie where the person wakes up in a hospital, but, like, it's real, so, like, people can all kind of relate to this. Nobody knows what a zombie's really like, but everybody knows what it's like to,
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've woken up next to a zombie now and then. I mean, who hasn't? Come on.
Kinda like, what's that one? 28 Days Later, right, Alec?
Mhm.
Oh, it's like every zombie movie starts off in a hospital. Like, it seems
Yeah.
like, what was it? Walking Dead too, the guy's just walking through the hospital like, "Wait, what's going on?"
Uh,
But yeah, this brings back to reality. Yeah.
So I noticed Self-Isolated won the Dreamer Award, right? Is that what it was called?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
that's awesome.
that is maybe it should be called the Nightmare Award or the
Yeah.
And, you also have Doug Birch, who played Mr. Kipper in this new one too, right?
That's right, yes. So, Doug Birch plays an amazing villain in Self-Isolated, and he is, if you've seen which you have, he's in Massacre on Aisle 12, which is
Mhm.
the first film that I worked with Doug on. And when you work with people that you like and you work with people that you just have a good team and everything gels with, you always try and find a way to work with them again. So I wrote the part of Walter, who Doug plays in Self Isolated. I wrote that specifically for him, and he's like Mr. Kipper from Massacre on Isle 12, but like times 10 on the creepy factor.
Mhm.
And he just blows it out of the water, and it is amazing. I can't wait for you to check it out.
Yeah, there was part of me, obviously, without you releasing any spoilers, but I'm watching the trailer, and there's this one scene where she's, like, walking in this empty building, which may be her house or the hospital, I'm not sure, and I thought to myself, I'm like, "What if she's actually not awake and she's still in the coma?" I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but, like, it could go a lot of directions here in terms of, kinda like suspense.
Yeah, we tell the story through, real-time action, some flashbacks, and, she's kind of rediscovering everything because she doesn't have, any recollection of how she's ended up in this predicament. So we explore that through a number of different methods, and, she finds, like, videos and books and pictures and things like that that trigger flashbacks and trigger memories, and, I don't wanna give too much of it away, but the coma of course, does play a role in it because she awakens from it, and, you'll see how it plays out.
Ugh.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's not give too much away because when it comes out, I'd love to, have you back on here. We can actually go deeper into it with being able to fully talk about it.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Well, why don't we move on over to one of your earlier projects then, Massacre on Aisle 12. So you co-wrote this with a man, named AJ Vaya?
Yes, co-wrote it, and, I produced it and, of course, starred in it as well.
Nice. Yeah, now and I was also looking at, so Jim Clock, he, co-directed it with the guy that played Santa too, right?
Yes, Jim Clark and William Mark McCullough.
Okay, so I love that, like, it was basically, like, everybody acting in it, directing it, writing it, just kind of like a big collaborative team. That's really cool. So how did you meet all these people?
Let's see, I had known Jim. Jim and I had been roommates in LA. We were both, coming up in the acting world, acting,
Oh,
writing, producing world, and we had met that way. Jim's actually also a former police officer.
Right.
I didn't know that when I met him, and, but we met through the acting circle and, hit it off that way. And Mark McCullough, also same thing. I think we all met in acting workshops in LA, somewhere in like North Hollywood, Studio City area. There's all these different casting director workshops that you could go to. And we all met there in those spaces. and eventually became friends. And then, of course, you're always looking for audition partners and places to rehearse when you get the auditions that come in. So we had met there, and we just kind of gelled, and that was kind of the beginning of that friendship and relationship. So when we came to do Massacre, it was just a huge collaboration of kind of everybody chipping in some way and dividing up the responsibilities of filmmaking, which in that case, like everybody's doing 5, 6, 7 different things, usually all at the same time.
Right.
But everybody's gone on to do a lot of bigger things since then, which is kind of neat because I think that Massacre on Aisle 12 is going to be one of those films where 5 or 10 years from now, people are going to watch it and be like, oh my God, all these people are in the same movie together,
Right.
just because everybody has gone on to do much bigger and better things since then.
Yeah, Chad, I wanted to ask you before I forget because I actually watched it again earlier today just because I like to have the movie very fresh in my mind.
I watch it once a day.
I know you said you haven't seen Black Friday with Bruce Campbell.
I saw the trailer.
Okay. Do you feel complimented at all, or like, does it make you feel happy that I don't want to say they took your movie and went in their own direction, but it's very, very similar. I mean, obviously, someone had to have seen your movie, I feel like. Does that make you feel good at all, or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's validating in the sense that, okay, hey, somebody else with a bigger budget thought that this was probably a really good premise, and how can we expand on that with stuff? There was stuff that was kind of in the original script that seemed to have made its way into Black Friday. I think there was a car crashing into the store at some point. The original script for Massacre on Aisle 12 had a police car crashing into the store. The trailer is very similar. I feel like both have elements of the same kind of
Mhm.
thing. You've got the clerk talking on the PA, got the creepy manager in almost the same wardrobe that Mr. Kipper was wearing. You got
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of archetypal characters that are all present in both films, and so in some sense, I mean, this happens in Hollywood all the time, so I'm happy that they found something that they could do with it, and I would have been happier, of course, if they said, "Hey, we're gonna do this," but, that's kind of the way the business works.
I like Massacre on Aisle 12 more because it's different. Like, the Black Friday was pretty much just a straight zombie movie just in a hardware store. But this one had, like, the element of who done it. I liked that more because it kept me more engaged as opposed to just like, "Okay, when is the zombie gonna come out and kill somebody?" Like, this was more of, like, kept me on
Uh,
my toes with wanting to know, really, actually, who did this? Why did they do this? And, how much more is that Otto character gonna go through before he actually dies?
Yeah, and so for those who aren't familiar with Massacre on Aisle 12, it's kind of a Christmas horror comedy, which, has evolved since its release in, Christmas 2016. It's kind of moved along as almost a Christmas cult classic film, and every year it seems to get more and more engagement, which I am so grateful for and I love because it just gives the film that much more life. But if you're not familiar with the premise of the film is, it's a new employee's first day on the job at this hardware store. They find a dead body and a duffel bag full of cash. And so then they're faced with that dilemma of like, well, we should call the police and report all this money and the dead body. And then the other side of it is, oh, let's let's hold up there. Let's maybe we could split this money up. And so then there's a disagreement. They get locked in the hardware store together, and then bodies start dropping, and it's like, who did it? So it's kind of a who done it wrapped in a Christmas movie, wrapped in a horror comedy, wrapped in it's almost like an '80s throwback to some extent in terms of the humor.
Yeah. Is there a reason you wanted to play the villain in this?
Yeah, he's such a great character. He starts off as just your jackass assistant manager at the hardware store who takes his job and title super seriously. And then he evolves from that. He goes through this amazing drug induced transformation to become just psychotic. And playing that character arc was so much fun. He really has a lot of fun with that. And I just adored playing that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, one of my main questions for you is what was the breaking point? I know there were a few, but like specifically that you think that made Jack snap. Was it just I think it was weed with heroin that he was smoking up in the
Right. Right. Sour Purple Turbo.
yeah, was it
Yeah.
the mixed with the money, mixed with he just like went crazy? Was there anything that you believe sparked it?
Absolutely, yeah, it was the disrespect that he got, when he mouths off and gets punched by Blackjack, and he doesn't get an apology. It happens in front of all the employees that he feels like he's lording over these people, and he gets no defense, he gets no respect, and it happens in front of Mr. Kipper, his boss, who's like, "Yeah, we all saw it, but you're off duty, so technically, nothing's gonna happen." And that is what just drove him to the breaking point, and, he goes up to their little secret hiding spot, Breaking Bad style, and smokes, it turns out to be weed and heroin, and, yeah, sour purple turbo, and that sets him over the edge.
Dude, you had me dying when you go into this, like, southern accent towards the end when it's just, I think it was just you and Dave, and you're like, "I'm fucking crazy, man!" Like, it
Yeah.
I was literally dying.
Jack really seemed to take on a southern accent as the movie progressed, which is quite interesting when he's like, "Yeah, duh, that's how these things go, right?"
I was loving it. I really liked it. Yeah, your character reminded me so much of just, like, me just being disgruntled at so many just shitty jobs. I mean, Justin, you and I used to work at, like, not a hardware store, we worked at a retail store, like Bob's store together, remember that?
Yeah, it was a clothing store here in Connecticut, and we were 16, so our first job. And like people are just, they've spent all day working their 8-hour jobs. They got their kids crying, they're pissed off, and they just take it out on you. And like I want one of the things I wanted to mention you was the people that you picked for these roles really made me believe. Like Tara, for example, reading the magazine when you come in, like she didn't want to talk to anybody. Otto played a very good, like, ex-military well, like, he definitely has said some of the things that I've heard firsthand being in there. Everyone just did a great job.
Yeah, yeah, it was quite a cast of characters. Tara, she's fantastic. She's gone on to do recurring on Ozark and a bunch of other films, and working with her was great. She brought that character to life so well, and yeah, we all have that feeling of working a crap job where you just hate life so much that you don't want to be there, and that's all of these employees here at Massacre on Aisle 12, and none of them probably would last at a legitimate establishment, but they're all here at this dingy Mr. Beaver's low rent hardware store, just counting off the minutes till they can leave.
Well, having the role of Dave was such a good idea, basically, just to have, like, a way to introduce us to everybody, introduce us to the store, just all that stuff without if we didn't have the Dave character, it'd be hard. So having that was really I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great way to introduce everybody, and I like the flashback scenes there that kind of established their job interviews, which
Oh, yeah.
was just so much fun.
Oh god, Otto's rant about, like, "You're upstate daddy," like, that was
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
oh,
yeah. A
That was
rich
great.
person who bought a Porsche but couldn't afford to fund pay his taxes to
yeah.
fund the veterans hospital that would fix my leg. That yeah, he was great. That's a great rant.
Ugh.
That and, the actor who played Dave, besides his very high-pitched screams, he had some moments where specifically where Farms was holding the crossbow down the stairs, and Dave was just, like, kind of screaming inaudibly, like, he was just yelling things, but you couldn't make it out. I was dying. I was like, "What is he saying?"
Yeah, there's like a 12-minute outtake reel, which is on the DVD of the movie, and the outtake reel has a lot more of those moments, which is like I always love watching the bloopers from a movie. If it's a comedy, I always wanna go watch the bloopers if I can, and so I wanted to make sure that that was out there. But yeah, his high-pitched scream was unreproducible. We worked together on another movie after that one called 6:66 PM, another horror comedy, and, we tried to get him to do that scream again, and he just could not hit that high pitched. I think
Oh,
that was
no.
one take. I think we shot that tape where he screams like that in Massacre. We probably shot that 4 or 5 times, and, once he hit that high note, I mean, that was it. The window shattered, and, we were very happy with that. That gets a big laugh in the trailer and the movie too.
Yeah. You guys filmed it in Savannah, right?
Yeah, Savannah, Georgia.
Nice. So, yeah, was that like, did you guys cast it in LA and then just, like, location scout down there, or how did that whole process go?
Yeah, for Massacre, the key to that obviously was the hardware store. It plays such a pivotal part of the film. So we needed someplace that would kind of fit the mold for that. And we had looked everywhere. We had considered shooting in Los Angeles. We cast all the principal roles in LA, and the supporting roles in the crew we picked up in Savannah.
Mm.
Although I think at the time Melissa Saint Amand was living in Atlanta, so she was a Southeast hire. She was not from LA. And then Blackjack was also a local hire. So
Mm.
we had 2 folks that we from the principal cast aboard that we cast semi-locally down there. I think Blackjack was living in North or South Carolina. He actually worked at one of those year-round haunted houses where you go in and they jump out at you.
Oh.
Mhm.
But the Mark McCullough found the location for Massacre on Aisle 12. We had been looking at some hardware stores in New Jersey as well, and Mark found this mom and pop hardware store in Savannah. It was owned by an older Chinese couple who had acquired this store. And the store, the building that it was in, was over 100 years old,
Hmm.
and it was a whole city block, and it was 4 stories tall. And it didn't always used to be that way, but over the decades, as other tenants moved out of their various adjacent buildings, whoever owned that facility at the time would just acquire it and knock down a wall. So you had a very well, in real life, it wouldn't be a place that you'd be like, this is like a nice establishment. But you go in for this location scout and you're like, this is so cinematic and so beautiful. This is going to be great. And
Yeah.
they had that 100-year-old elevator. It was like a lift, like from the movie. Like it didn't even have doors on it. And that was the real elevator that we would take up from floor to floor. And you're just obviously not finding any sort of health or safety inspection certificate anywhere on that thing. And yeah, it was that was perfect. We did some rewrites to make sure that we could get that elevator into the movie because that's originally, I don't want to spoil it, but there is a death that takes place with that elevator, and that was not obviously something that was scripted because we didn't think we'd be able to find something like that. But when I walked in and I saw that, I said, "Oh my God, this has got to kill somebody." So yeah, it was great.
Either in the movie or during it.
Yeah, it was quite an experience shooting in there because the store would be open during the day and we'd shoot overnights. We'd load in at 6 and we'd be done by 6 a.m. We only had one day, I think it was a Sunday, that we shot stuff during the day, and that was the only time we were in there during the day. The rest of it was all overnights. And unbeknownst to us, there was like a foreign exchange student living in the building.
What?
And also the owners of the building lived in there too. The old Chinese couple, they lived there. We knew they lived there, but they didn't tell us that there was like a foreign exchange student living there. And they also didn't tell him that they were shooting a freaking horror movie overnights in there either.
Oh my
So
god.
apparently the first night that we really got into it, he called the owners and he was like, "Hello. Yes, I think there is a murder here."
Oh my god.
Yeah. And we would keep seeing like we saw flashes of him throughout the shoot. And it wasn't until the last day we were shooting that we actually encountered the guy face to face. And that's when we found out that he didn't know we were there and we didn't know he was there. But the whole crew was centralized. So we knew where everybody was at all times. But somebody would go off to the bathroom and they'd come back and they're like, "Is somebody over there?" Because I thought I saw somebody. Like, no, we're all here. So
What?
yeah, it was very interesting.
Oh my god. I'm just imagining he came over here, he's like, "I wanted to be an actor," and then they were filming in this place I was living. It was my first movie, and that guy became Javier Bardem. Like that, like, I wanted that to be like did you guys ever talk to him? Did you find out, like, what he was doing in Savannah?
Yeah, we met him on the last day of filming, and we invited him to the wrap
Oh,
party. So, we talked after, and, he's like, "Yeah, I had no idea that you guys were here." And, like, I don't know his immigration status, but I feel like they were trying to maybe keep him a secret. So,
right.
uh,
Oh my
there's
god.
there's no way he didn't hear you guys the entire
no
time.
way. I mean, we were screaming, we're just killing people in there. So,
Oh my
he
god.
must have been terrified, just holed up in there, scared to call the police because he might be
That's
deported.
Oh my god.
that makes it's such a funny story to add to this movie.
Right.
Yeah, if I was one of your actors and I like went to the bathroom and saw this dude, I would have been terrified. Like, what is this kid doing in here?
'Cause we locked off the building, like, it was just us in there, so that was something else, and then the owners, there was a Chinese couple, very old, that they owned it, and, the only time that I ran into the wife, like, she would come out periodically and just kinda watch us, and she only did that twice, and both times we were shooting something kinda risque.
Oh my
Like
god.
the Barbie when she's kinda dancing, doing that little striptease for Santa,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
she came out right when we were filming that, and she's like, "You shoot the porn?" And we're like, "No. No, we're not shooting porn. I promise you we're not shooting porn." And then the next time she came out was there was, like, a sex scene,
Oh yeah.
very brief sex scene, yeah, and so then she comes out there, she's like, "You shoot the porn!" And we're like, "We're not shooting porn, I promise you." So, yeah, that we were under the watchful eye of her,
Oh my
but
god.
That's hilarious.
Jeez, you guys should do a commentary for the DVD and the Blu-ray.
but yeah, there is.
Oh, there
I'm not
is?
sure. Yeah, there's a commentary track on the DVD as well, and
Oh,
I'm sure that we do touch on all this stuff.
yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that really is awesome. God, I'm just imagining this kid just hearing chainsaws and you with the bloody face, and he's like, "What the fuck is America?"
Right, and
Yeah.
screaming,
Like, imagine if I went to somewhere in, like, some country and this was happening, I'd be like, "Alright, I gotta get the fuck out of here." Oh, that's awesome. That really adds such a nice story to it. Yeah, I don't know, Justin, do you have any other questions about the film or for Chad?
Well, Chad, is there any rough ETA that you can give listeners out there for self-isolated?
Hopefully very soon in the next couple of months. Hope to have something inked here in the next week or so that we can get the film headed out to everybody to see. I'm super excited for it to make its way out there, and I think it's a story that hasn't really been told. There wasn't a lot of production going on over the pandemic, but we did shoot it in LA during the pandemic, which was a unique experience. You've never seen LA that empty. Well, Alec, you were there, so
Yeah.
you have an idea. But yeah, it should be out hopefully in the next several months, and that would be amazing. Love for you guys to see it as
Yeah,
well.
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
Gearing up to shoot the next one back in LA next month, which is called Murder Van. And Murder Van is kind of like the James Wan series Saw
Mhm.
meets Split by M. Night Shyamalan. And so it's like Saw meets Split in the van. And it's about two girls who work at a gym who get abducted by the serial killer as they're leaving work one night, and he's got them in the back of the van, and the van is like custom outfitted, kind of like in the movie Saw, with like different stuff and challenges and stuff that they have to do, and like
Mhm.
beat the clock, so to speak. And so it's about them trying to find a way to escape before it is too late.
Are you the
And
bad guy again?
yes, I am. Yes,
That's
I,
awesome.
I am the bad guy in Murder Van.
Uh,
That's awesome.
is this one, more of a horror straight, or is it a horror
Yeah,
comedy?
yeah. This one is straight up horror film.
Nice.
As much as I love doing comedy, what I've found from making 2 horror comedy films is that for overseas sales, like, the American sense of humor doesn't necessarily translate that well, whereas it's pretty globally understood when somebody's getting chased by a dude with a knife, so
Right.
Is 6:66 PM the other horror comedy you did?
yes, yeah, that's the other horror comedy. It's largely the same team, from Massacre on Aisle 12, and, that one's about a team of ghost hunters who are making their fake reality TV show about hunting ghosts, and
Oh.
they do a story in this ranch house, which turns out actually is haunted by the ghost of a deranged serial killer. So it's a lot of the same cast and
Okay.
same crew in that. So
Yeah, I saw you won multiple, horror awards for those 2, and then, I caught the drift that Self-Isolated was not a comedy either from the trailer.
yeah, Self Isolated is a suspense thriller, one of my favorite genres to watch when I'm just sitting down to watch something. So I wanted to make something like that. I think we definitely hit the mark on that. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed so much too from just doing this podcast and talking to filmmakers and everybody is just comedy and horror just go hand in hand sometimes. People that love comedy also really love horror, and it's just
Mhm.
so weird because 'cause they're so, contrast, but, like, they really do go well together. I love horror comedies.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love watching those. I can watch those all day.
Yeah. No, yeah. Very, very happy for you, very impressed. It's really cool, everything you've accomplished.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, thank you guys.
Well, yeah, this is a bonus episode, so we don't have any wheel to spin or any other episodes to promote. So,
Yeah, well, I do a lot of stand-up comedy, so maybe I'm coming to your city. Just go to chadridgely.com and check it out. Or all my social media is at Chad Ridgely. And you can get updates on the films and check out the stuff that we've already got produced. And hope to have you jump on board the filmmaking bandwagon that we've got rolling here.
Yeah, I'll definitely be marketing it. You'll see I'll tag you and everything. I obviously follow you on Twitter, and I saw your Self-Isolated movie has a page as well, so
Yeah, so does Murder Van, so does Massacre on Aisle 12. Not on Twitter, though. Self Isolated does on Twitter. Murder Van does on Twitter. Massacre on Aisle 12 and 6:66 p.m. are on Facebook.
cool. Awesome.
nice. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Justin, Alec, thank you guys so much.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening in, and we will see you soon with another episode.